Hello, everyone. Welcome to Volume 5 of the Degenerate Gambling Life. We all should be excited. It's less than 2 weeks before football, and let's just jump into it. We're talking about cheap stacks that you should be able to get in all of your draft formats. I'm going to be talking about dynasty and redrafts, so let's jump into our first team. First, we got Kenny Pickett and the Steelers. Kenny Pickett's done a great job of improving. He'll get you some juice with his legs. Najee Harris is someone that's been injured, and the bad O-line, which has improved, which is also why I like Kenny Pickett. Najee, I think this will be his best year, especially behind a vastly improved O-line. And finally, for the wide receiver for the stack, I think George Pickens is a guy. I know everyone likes to go with Deontay, but you just got to watch the chemistry. It doesn't matter where the money is, it's where the QB chemistry is, and that's with George Pickens. Next, we're going to jump to New York Giants. I know all the fans there love them some Danny Dimes. Daniel Jones isn't my favorite, but he gets it done with the legs, and he gets you some touchdowns. I think he'll pass a little bit more this year, which leads us to the other part of the stack, which is Darren Waller. He's been rising. He's almost costing you a 5th rounder now, but in some drafts you can still get him for that 7th round. And so I think Daniel Jones and Darren Waller is a great stack. Next, this is more for dynasty if you're going really into it. I think the Dolphins have a really great stack. I think Jalen Waddle, he's probably going to cost you that 1st round pick, but he's worth it. Tua has shown you whenever he's healthy, he has that top end QB to help you win. And finally, Jeff Wilson. I know people say, Mostert, A-Chain, but Jeff Wilson's the guy you want. Just look at it. He left the 49ers. They traded for him. He's a coach's guy. Jeff Wilson is the last person you want if you're doing that Dolphin stack. And finally, you can't beat the table anymore about this. I'm a Packers fan.
As always, go Packers and the Bears.
Come on, but I'm on the Vikings. Last call. Come on. It's the Kirk Cousins. He's a top 10 QB. He probably will crack the top 8. TJ Hawkinson. He's going in that 4th, 5th round still. I think his ceiling can be number 1 overall tight end for the year. And finally, Alexander Madison. He's going to be a volume back, but I think he'll be there. You saw how they like to run it with Dalvin when he was there. And as long as he stays healthy, I think he should finish inside the top 12 of all running backs. So that's the stacks I have for redraft and dynasty.
What's up, everyone? My name is Kevin Miller. On today's episode, Volume 5, I will be discussing best ball stacks you can get away with later in your best ball draft. These are strictly for best ball, and they are week 17 because that's the championship week. That's the week you should be focusing on trying to shoot for the moon if you're lucky enough to still be alive in any of the tournaments. And keep in mind, this is on DraftKings and Underdog, which is either full point or half point PPR. I don't think they change that much depending on which platform you're playing on. And I would also like to say that if you're doing a redraft league, don't worry about stacking. It's irrelevant. You need to take the best player available every time it's on you that fits your team. Never focus on stacking and redraft. That being said, my first stack for best ball is going to be the San Francisco 49ers and the Washington Commanders with Brock Purdy, Brandon Ayuk, and Antonio Gibson. I think this could be a sneaky one. Purdy's going to be the second-year breakout quarterback. Another cheap stack would be the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Seattle Seahawks stack, going with Kenny Pickett, George Pickens, and Zach Charbonnet. Kenny Pickett, another second-year quarterback. He's getting a lot of buzz. I see the Pickett to Pickens going off a lot, and Charbonnet can catch passes. My third stack is going to be the Tennessee Titans and Houston Texans stack, and we'd be looking at Hopkins, Schultz, Tannehill. I think you're going to have to take Hopkins a little earlier, maybe around round 4, but Schultz should be a double-digit pick, and Tannehill should be one of your last picks. My fourth late-round stack is going to be the Giants and the Rams, stacking Daniel Jones with rookie receiver Jalen Hyatt against other rookie receiver Puka Nacua. Now, Daniel Jones you'd have to take around round 9 or 10. Jalen Hyatt would be coming off the board around round 13 or 14, and Puka Nacua could be your last pick or two. And my final stack for best ball is going to be the Dallas Cowboys and Detroit Lions. I do like this one a lot, especially with earlier players, but if you don't take the big name players like Lamb, Amon-Ra, Pollard, and Gibbs, I think you could get away with a Dak Prescott, Jake Ferguson, and David Montgomery stack. Those are my 5 best ball stacks I'd be targeting later on in drafts. Make sure you leave your best ball draft with at least one of these if you want to have a chance at the grand prize.
You come up with such an idea, Matthew.
What can I say? It's like a gift, you know?
What's up, guys? I'm Jacob Listowski of the Degenerate Gambling Life, and on this episode, I'm going to be talking about cheap stacks in fantasy football and offenses that we like. An offense I'm really high on this season is the Baltimore Ravens. They have a new offensive coordinator, and they're looking to throw the ball a lot more. I think Lamar Jackson presents a great value if you can get him in the 4th or 5th round this season. I mean, the guy is a former MVP, and he has the greatest quarterback season of all time in fantasy football just 3 years ago. So this is a guy that if you can get him, you're going to definitely want him. Another player that I could see having a huge season this year is Zay Flowers. He's as crisp a route runner as anyone in the league. You can get him in the 8th or 9th round of your drafts and pair him up with Lamar Jackson. I think he's going to be the number 1 receiver option in Baltimore this season, and I think he has a very good chance to compete for the Rookie of the Year. I also think Odell Beckham presents good value this season in fantasy drafts. I mean, the Ravens didn't pay him $15 million for nothing. I think he has big play threat potential and a lot of red zone potential. He could score a lot of touchdowns this season. There's going to be a lot of balls to go around, so I like picking him up late in drafts and potentially being a guy that could be a league winner. And speaking of league winners, I think J.K. Dobbins is a guy that could be one of those as well. You're only paying a running back 2 price for a guy that has huge running back 1 upside. The guy in his career has averaged 5.9 yards per carry. He's explosive and he can hit home runs. In this higher passing offense, maybe we'll see the Ravens pass the ball more to the running backs as well. I think J.K. Dobbins is a guy in the middle of the draft that could provide huge value for your team and push you over the hump in the playoffs this season.
Sweat and Kerrigan on the sideline for this 3rd down.
3rd and 4. Jackson keeps it himself up the middle. He's got room. Lamar Jackson, open field, inside the 20. He is in. Lamar, spectacular. Touchdown, Baltimore.
Another offense I like this year is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They play in a soft division and have a lot of juicy matchups. Trevor Lawrence is coming off a career year in which he threw 25 touchdowns and finished as the quarterback 8 overall. I think he has a lot of more weapons around him. Adding Calvin Ridley this season is going to be huge for him. He could take a step into that top 5 category going forward. And speaking of Calvin Ridley, I think Calvin Ridley is another league winner type of guy, but that presents a lot of value. He's going in the 3rd, 4th, 5th rounds of redrafts, and I think that could be one of the steals of the draft. You know, this guy, when he last played, was wide receiver 5 overall in PPR formats. He's only 28 years old, and he still has a lot left in the tank and could produce at a very high level for Jacksonville this season. He looks good in camp, and I think that's a guy that you want to stack with Trevor Lawrence if you can.
10 for 15 in the game. Throwing it deep for Ridley. He's got it. Breaks the tackle, and it's going all the way. Touchdown.
What's up, everyone? On today's Volume 5, I will be discussing my Blackjack Strategy. It's pretty unorthodox, but when I'm playing Blackjack, I prefer to use the Never Bust strategy. Essentially, when you're at a 12 or higher, you are just standing, and the concept here is that you're always giving the dealer a chance to bust, which they will do 30 to 40% of the time, and you don't want to have your hand busted, but when they go bust, that's just costing yourself a bunch of money. I don't think there's any strategy you can play profitably other than the martingale, which is the double down infinitely, but casinos have table caps, so you really can't execute that strategy either. But if you want to increase your longevity at the table and really find a different way to get the whole table going and working together, I would try the never bust strategy. 12 or higher, do not hit. Simple as that. Never bust.
Now, quick little story time to go along with Kevin's crazy never bust strategy. I gotta tell you, he was playing at Hooters Casino, which is Oyo, which is still, if you're looking for a cheap place to gamble in Vegas, Oyo is your best bet for blackjack and roulette, but that's for another video talking about that. But I walk in and he literally has the entire table pounding, clapping, going, never bust, never bust. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. Not a strategy I ever recommend ever, but it was a lot of fun if you're drunk and just enjoying it and having a good time. Me personally, I believe in basic strategy, card counting if you're able to do a little bit, but I think that's the way to go for blackjack. But if you're looking for fun and good time and getting the table into it, Kevin's never bust is a crazy way to go.
I also wanted to talk about a sports future bet I made for the NFC South division this season. There's an interesting discrepancy on Bovada where you can actually get better odds right now on Atlanta first place finish at plus 200 versus Atlanta to win the NFC South at only plus 175. So I made a bet of New Orleans to win the NFC South at plus 140 and Atlanta to come in first place in the NFC South at plus 200. So what this bet means is that if Atlanta wins the division, I will net $100 in profit on my bet. And if New Orleans wins the division, I will net $40 in profit on my bet. The downside risk is a loss of $200, but overall I think that this is a good risk-reward setup. I think that one of these two teams will take the division, and I like that I can make money either way on this bet if they do.
Yeah, what can I do for you, Rod? You just tell me, what can I do for you?
It's a very personal, very important thing. Hell, it's a family motto. Are you ready, Jerry?
I'm ready.
Just want to make sure you're ready, brother. Here it is. Show me the money. Jerry, does that make you feel good just to say that?
Alright everyone, that does it for Volume 5. I hope you look forward to Volume 6. Next week we're going to be talking about sleepers that have risen, example Jordan Love, and how they're now draftable players. We'll also get into some poker hands from WinStar and my recent trip to St. Louis. And as always, we hope that you like, comment, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you in Volume 6. Thank you all.